Hey guys, so we just recorded our 100th episode for the Pure Desire podcast, and as a part of that episode, me and Nick really spent some time just rehashing our favorite episodes from the last 99. So here's a little clip of us rehashing really the podcast, the power it's had, and just all the people that it's helping, and then also our favorite of the 99 episodes. Enjoy this.
Just briefly, let's talk about it. The podcast has been, I think, a surprise in how impactful it's been. I know you and I talk to a lot of people when we travel the country, and I think a lot of people talk about the impact it's made in their life. And I know for me, I continue to be just surprised because, as you can see, we're just sitting at my desk and we're recording into a computer. You know what I mean? Like, it's this magical thing.
Well, I know we're still just in an office, but it is good to think about where we've come from.
Oh,
those early episodes we were recording at a church, basically like in a glorified coat closet. There were literally choir uniforms in the room with us.
That's right.
And
baptism t-shirts.
Trying to make it work, and we had to worry if someone was going to be walking by outside the room, making noise. And so this is actually an improvement, but I think about the impact. Some of it to me is the way that when you're on staff at Pure Desire, when this gets to become your world and your passion and you're involved in this a lot, there are conversations we just routinely have where we'll find ourselves saying, if everybody understood this, if people knew this, if they saw this angle, if they were able to grasp these concepts, how helpful that would be. And I think over these 100 episodes, that's what we've tried to do, is just put in a conversational way a lot of the things that have just become part of the fabric of what we do and what groups do and what's happening in churches all over the country. But in a lot of ways, it is still different. It's revolutionary. It's new. It's not the way we were trained as we grew up in the church to think about sex or pornography or our bodies or relationships. It's built on that solid foundation of Scripture and an understanding of who God made us to be. But there's just a depth of the wisdom and experience that God's blessed Pure Desire with, starting with Ted and Diane. And that's what I like about it. It just feels like it takes a lot of these team conversations we've had on trips or at Pure Desire conferences, and it now makes them available for anyone to hear and benefit from.
Yeah. And if you have listened to all 100, you are a saint.
It feels like
you get an extra jewel in your crown, probably. But we today obviously want to talk about really our ministry. We want to talk about and reflect a little bit on the 100 episodes we've had thus far.
Very good.
And then at the end, we're going to wrap up talking about the future, really, of what we're doing here at PD.
Yeah, that's exciting.
You got the first question, Nick. You should ask it.
We actually have questions?
We do. Well,
I thought we were just riffing for 30 minutes.
We can. There are 3 topics.
Okay, so it's been 100 episodes, 100, and so we wanted to look back, kind of like a lot of sitcoms do, and they'll do a best of.
Yeah.
And think about what were our favorite episodes and why. So, Trevor, you want to kick us off?
Sure. So, I've written down my 5 top episodes, and the ones that I think match up between you and me, we'll make sure we drop them into the actual podcast episode, and you guys can listen to little clips of those. But for me, one that pretty early on, it was episode 15. We did it with Brian Roberts, and we did it on personal promises. And I just remember talking about really just the impact that Scripture has made and experience when those two meet. And that's why it's one of my favorite tools that we use, is just because it's so powerful in the way that it applies Scripture to my life. And I just remember, I think that was the first time I told the story about, and it's funny too now thinking about it, because I've told the story in group many times since then. But I had this moment where I made this, probably one of the greatest baseball catches I've ever made in my life, and realized that I was wounded in that moment because of the response of people around me. And so I just think back to that as a powerful moment, even in my story and my recovery, but it was just an awesome time sitting down together.
Yeah. Brian Roberts.
Yeah.
Miss that guy.
We miss you, man. A couple other ones for me, Singleness and Addiction. We did a couple episodes with Ben Bennett and Jake Kizik. Those guys are amazing. They work with Josh McDowell Ministry. Shout out to JMM. We love you guys. But that was just a good time because they're hilarious and a lot of fun. Like I said, we'll drop in some clips from those guys because they're great. We did one called Mistakes Churches Make.
They were talkative too.
Oh my gosh.
I recall we didn't plan that to be 2 episodes.
Yes.
It's like we're only on question 4 and we're hitting 30 minutes.
Yeah.
It's like, I think this is going to be a 2-parter.
This is a part 2.
But it was great content, so I'm glad it was two
they did
parts.
Great. Mistakes churches make. We did that with Bob. I think we did that one on the road, actually, with Bob. And that one was good because I think that our heart so often is to help the church. And sometimes it comes off as pointing a finger or a jab at them, but it's not. It really is a desire for the church to reach people well in this season of life, in this part of recovery. And group guidelines. The only reason I love that one, I mean, it's a great episode, but I love that one because that's when Ashley finally used the phrase guardians of the guidelines. And obviously any Marvel fan knows that's kind of a cool little jab. So Ashley's great at those. And then probably the most impactful episode for me was episode 87. We sat down with Dr. Ted and really unknowingly he walked us through experiencing the sword drill.
Yeah, we thought he was going to talk about it. We didn't know he was going to make us do it.
I was
live
so
on
nervous, but it just was a really cool moment. I felt like scripture expanded for me in that moment, and I felt like it was a real, raw, totally non-produced type of episode that was super cool. So those are my top 5. What do you got?
I didn't think to write down the episode numbers, so you might have to go back through and
no problem.
Put those in the show notes for our listeners. I think, again, of one with Ted, and if I remember right, we were sitting at your parents' house actually after recording something else, and we talked with Dr. Ted about the father wound, and I loved that just because it's so core to what he's taught for many years. I think it combines an area that the church does know where we struggle with things, but combines it to our struggle with sexuality and pornography. And the other thing about that, just as you mentioned, sometimes Ted can make you nervous. He's so deep, he's so experienced. But there was a fluidity that where Ted was just willing to joke with us and banter, and you forget how quick he is on his feet. Remember really enjoying that episode with him. And I know the reality is we won't have Ted forever. I mean, we all hope and pray he's got another 20 years of great ministry with us. But I think that's one of those episodes that I'll always hold on to as some great ministry with Ted.
Yeah, it was good.
Another one that comes to mind we did with Rodney Wright. It was called Pastors and Pornography. And that was one we recorded at like 11 o'clock at night in Dutch, Pennsylvania. And
we were in Intercourse, Pennsylvania.
Close to it. I don't think the hotel was actually in Intercourse, but yes.
But
we did drive there the next day. You got me off course now.
That's okay. It was a great episode. It was like we had been traveling all day.
Yeah,
right?
It was. We're like, we're awake. Let's do it now. Otherwise, we're going to have to get up and we're going to be jet lagged and tired and grumpy.
Oh my gosh.
Let's record it. And I think it was just great to deal honesty with that topic. Another one, and this is kind of cheating because it's like 8 episodes, but I've loved doing the frequently asked questions. Yeah. The opportunity it gives for listeners to send in questions that are on their hearts and minds, and the variety of topics, because I think no matter how many podcasts we do, there will be topics that, we hadn't thought of that. But when it comes to our sexuality and our struggles, the kind of questions that come up are varied. And I think what I love about those episodes is most people simply don't have a safe, reliable place to ask their hard questions. Yeah. Because they feel like if I bring it up with my spouse, they'll be like, why do you want to know that?
Totally.
Or if I ask my pastor, they're going to give me a blank stare. If I ask a counselor, well, most people don't go to a counselor. So I just love the freedom that people have had to ask those questions. And so those are some of my favorites. And then I think of the 2 episodes with some guests when we had Jay Stringer, the author of Unwanted, and then Ron DeHaas, the founder of Covenant Eyes.
Yeah. That was a good
just
one.
Hearing their story. And both of them were willing to be so vulnerable about their own story and how God used that to take them into the roles and the ministries they have now. And so those were great. And then the last one was just having Robert and Rebecca Vandermeer in studio with us. In studio, that's what we call your office.
That's code word.
And we've had a few episodes with couples, but I really appreciated the way they shared from their own story, from their counseling experiences, just on what does sex during recovery look like. And again, that's one of those topics that I think everyone deals with if they're walking through recovery from pornography or sexual addiction. Yeah. But not a lot of people talk about. It's like, well, it's just go figure it out and it's supposed to work. But their honesty to talk about the struggles and the pitfalls and hopefully giving couples a context for conversation, because that's what I think is so crucial, is not that you just follow 4 points and now you know what sex during recovery should look like. But that you understand what kind of conversations do we have so that as a couple, because every relationship is different and every couple is different, how as a couple can we figure this out? So that was, again, one of my favorite, and just watching them interact was a lot of fun.
It is crazy how much we've talked about. I mean, we've sat in this room and many rooms recording 100 episodes is a lot, and they're not short episodes. They're not
well,
like 10-minute clips.
They're all at least 30 minutes.
Yeah.
Times 100, so that's 3,000 minutes.
Wow.
That's 50 hours.
So according to Malcolm Gladwell, we're like a third of the way through to being experts on that, the 10,000 hours thing. So little just a tip right there, a little idea.
We're getting there.